Hello everyone, so Micheál Martin is talking shit again. So this is what we call the Taoiseach, the Prime Minister. I wouldn't even satisfy him calling the Taoiseach. It doesn't deserve the title. He's only an anti-Irish traitor in my opinion at this stage. His last few comments is pretty much treason, let's be honest. And this is nothing more than it. So pretty much the Taoiseach is warning now, and a lot of Irish people, 85%, because it would have to go to the people to decide. And rightly so, it should go to the people, because 85% of the public would say, no, we don't want to join NATO, we don't want to join anybody. We want to be on our own country, as I say, neither king nor Kaiser during the First World War. And that's simply the truth, neither anybody else, or Europe, or anybody, we're for ourselves, and that's where we should be. We're for ourselves, the Irish people. But the Taoiseach has come out with this bullshit today that the Taoiseach wants to enshrine neutrality into the Constitution of Ireland, because at the moment it's a long-standing policy of the state is not set in stone, and the Constitution would be set in stone. So the government in the morning could say we want to join NATO and stuff. Obviously, we won't let them. Simple as that. Just to say straight to me, man, we won't let them. We do everything to stop you joining NATO. We don't want to spend hundreds of millions on foreign countries. We don't want to get involved in foreign conflicts. That's up to anybody else. That's up to countries that want to do it. The Irish people have no interest. And why should we go off? Why, as me, as a young Irish man, 22, go out and fight for Micheál Martin or Simon House? Why would I do it? Why would any young Irish person go off and die for Simon House or Micheál Martin? Tell me that. I would love any of them answer. Because there's so many young Irish people like myself can't afford a house, can't afford to pay the rent, can't even afford to do anything in this country. So why the fuck would we go out and fight for Simon House or Micheál Martin? Why would we do it? Why would we fight for Catherine Conley as Uachtar on the Heron as the Commander-in-Chief of the Army? Why would we do it? Why would we do it for them assholes to get rich, as they are at the moment? Why would we do it? Just to say straight, I wouldn't do it for them. If the enemy came to Ireland's shores, of course, that would be the time I would take up arms to fight. But I wouldn't go and fight in somebody else's country. It's up to them to defend. It's up to Ireland, the Irish people, to defend themselves, of course. But what he's coming out with today, the bullshit, saying it could restrict Ireland's defence capabilities. Of course, you've done it yourselves. Like, what they're bullshitting about here, they've done it themselves. For years, the army's budget was slashed by more than 50%, nearly 70% in some cases. And they're here lecturing us, saying, oh yeah, if we don't do this, if we enshrine neutrality in the Constitution, we'll limit our defence capabilities. They've done it themselves. Like, they've literally done it themselves. Like, they have some brass neck to come out and state that, because they've literally done it themselves. They could literally throw 5 billion in the morning. They have so much money. They could throw literally, probably even I would nearly say 75 billion if they wanted to, into the army in the morning, or the navy in the air court. They could literally throw it in, because they have literally hundreds of billions. Like, we're talking about insane amount of money in the background, like, for themselves, of course. But they could literally do that in the morning if they really, really wanted to. We literally could have one of the biggest defence spending in Europe if we really, really wanted to. Because there's loads of money not being used. Yeah, that's in the rainy day savings account that the country's making. But they don't want to do that. And again, he says about peacekeeping and stuff. It's for the last 60 years. It's not stopped all in peacekeeping and stuff. So I don't know about that. Because at the end of the day, we're not in active conflict. We're there just to uphold the peace and protect law and order, etc. And then he's saying about the triple lock, etc. But there's no need to change the triple lock. I know they will say Russia will block us, and that's true to a certain extent. But that's what democracy and diplomacy. And I'm not a fan of Russia. But that's what democracy. That's what our diplomats are there in Moscow and other places. They're there to say to Russia, look at. Whatever you have against us, we're there to we'll say if it's in the Congo, take example, we're there to uphold the peace. We're there to look after communities, make sure there's no conflict, make sure we in the middle of each crowd just try and separate them from shooting at each other and stuff. The same as we're doing in Lebanon too, and humanitarian missions too, in terms of building wells and stuff. That's what peacekeeping's all about. Now it's done for the last 60 years, and it's never affected us before. So why would it affect us now? And the triple lock too, it should have never been changed. It's only to try and get Irish people into conflict. That's all it is. And again, this is the thing. Why would, and I say I ask this question again because there's no way, nobody in the government could tell me, or any young Irish people, why would they go off and fight in, say, for example, in the Baltics, say, for example, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Why would we go off and fight in the Baltics? Why would we go and fight in Romania? Why would we go and fight anywhere? Because we have no allegiance to them. We have only allegiance to Ireland and to the Irish nation. And why would I go off and fight for on Taoiseach Micheál Martin, on Taoiseach or Simon House, or any of them in the Dáil? Because let's be fair, as a young Irish person, I see so many too that have left to go to Australia because they have literally nothing here for them. Why would they go and fight and die? And if the war was one take us up in the morning, if Ireland was involved in the conflict, they would come home and they would get fucked in the arse. Let's put it that way, straight up. Because let's be fair, they still couldn't be able to afford a house. They still couldn't be able to do anything in life because the government would be fucking them over at every nook and cranny. But this is the thing. But why would you do it? Like, why would you do it? Like, Micheál Martin wrote to answer that question. Like, for love of country, for king and country, as they said during the First World War in England. Now, that day's long and gone. That day's long and gone for glory, for country and stuff. Because, let's be fair, the government hates you. The government hates people. They hate the Irish people. They despise you and me, the Irish people. That's generally honestly. Because they've shown nothing but contempt for me. And for many people like me, young people, take this example, they've shown nothing but contempt. They spent money on bicycle sheds. They threw money at themselves. They throw money at everybody else but looking after Irish people. So why would any white-minded Irish person say, yeah, I'm going to go and fight for whatever, for Micheál Martin, for Simon House? Because let's be fair, they won't be the people on the front line. That's as simple as that. And that's just the simple truth. They won't be. Catherine Conlon will be nowhere near the front line when the conflict starts, etc. But I do think the Irish constitution should reflect that all of course, conflict could come looking for us. It didn't stop the Nazis invading Denmark, for example. But, what I'm trying to say, we should actively not look to be joining military alliances, etc. That's my point. I think the majority of Irish people would agree with that we don't want anything to do with it. And we're saving, and just to say to people who would agree with joining NATO, for example, it would cost hundreds of billions a year. We'll be talking about hundreds of billions a year extra in defence given to NATO, not even to our own defence, given to NATO, and a huge increase in our own budget. So something would have to give. Either we cut back on education, cut back on social welfare and stuff like that, cut back on other stuff, pensions and stuff like that, to fund the military and stuff. I don't think many Irish people are willing to do that. To be genuine honest, I wouldn't be willing to do it, first of all. To give it to another country to defend themselves. Simple as that. Because it's our own business to defend ourselves, and that's the simplest truth. But let me know what you think. Subscribe more, and bye.